Hi everyone, Dr. Dan Lawrence here. The purpose of this video is to act as a companion to Chapter 5 of your digital writing textbook, which is all about careers in writing, and how do you position yourself in such a way that you might line up a job doing something with digital media. And I just wanted to kind of, nothing scholarly really here or theoretical, just to kind of talk to you a little bit about that and what you can do to increase your chances on the job market if you want to be a writer in the digital space or even just adjacent or parallel to some of these technological things going on. Because it's kind of unavoidable. Like, even if you take a job like a marketing coordinator, it doesn't sound like you're going to be doing really anything with technology, but you really are. You might have to manage the social media page for that company. You might be doing updates on the website. It really depends on the size of the department and the scope of it. But like I mentioned before, even if you just want to be an old school, like, Joan Didion, Hemingway fiction writer, you're probably still going to have to do stuff with social media and technology. And you might have to build an author website, and you might have to build up a little platform on Twitter. And, there are Luddites out there. There are people who push against the technology, and there are people who don't engage with the digital world. So it's ultimately up to you. But, you're probably going to run into this stuff in one way or another. But don't avoid it. Don't roll with the waves, right? Um, it certainly worked well for me. So the way that I got into a marketing career pathway was as a graphic designer at a commercial real estate company, and really I was hired because I had Photoshop experience and I had the Adobe product experience, and then that led into becoming a marketing coordinator, and then I moved over into digital marketing and then became a marketing communication specialist. And I was doing all kinds of things. I was managing websites. I was using Facebook Advertising Manager to create advertisements. We were doing YouTube pre-roll ads. I was hiring and vetting voice talent to do voiceovers on our commercials, and going on site to do drone videography with our filmographer. And you do a lot of cool things in marketing, creative things, right? Billboard design. We had a really small department, so I was doing a lot of stuff, right? It was a regional healthcare company, and we had 3 or 4 employees in our team. So you're doing a lot of stuff. You're interviewing physicians. You're writing advertorials. You're doing the weekly newsletter on your email platform. So and frankly, I had never done a lot of that stuff before. I had used some email platforms like Constant Contact, but I had never written an advertorial before. And so that's why rhetoric is so important. It gives you the critical skill set to just look at any problem and say, okay, I can emulate an example. I can think about the audience. I'm going to follow a writing process. I'm going to draft. I'm going to, you know, brainstorm, draft, and then revise and edit. You're going to follow all these kinds of best practices that are laid out throughout the book that you can apply to almost any digital scenario, almost any, writing scenario that's going to help you get through. But so, there's a big question there. It's like, what platforms should you specifically focus on? I think it's a little bit of both. It's if you're really serious about wanting to break into the digital social media space, you want a job title like a digital marketer. You want to be a digital marketing specialist. You want to be a social media coordinator. Um, you're going to need to maybe do a little bit something beyond this class, right? You might have to get a certification from Facebook, do a little bit of training. And I've linked some free training in Canvas that you can follow up after this class or concurrent, whenever you want to do that, go right ahead. But you're probably going to need a little something extra, right? You're going to need some of those Adobe skills, Photoshop, InDesign, some really basic graphic design skills, some really just some rudimentary video editing I think is important. um, familiarity with the Facebook advertising manager, if you can get some experience with the social media management software. It's been a while since I've used those. I know companies were using Hootsuite for a while or Sprout Social. So you'll have to kind of do your own research too. It's like what are companies looking for right now? That's why I've assigned this project about the job memo. Take a look at the job postings. Look at maybe like 10 or 15 job postings and see what patterns, like what is the actual software that companies are looking for right now, and then can you do something to get some really basic rudimentary training just to get your foot in the door, pop that on your resume in a skills section that's going to look pretty attractive to a company. And that might be the difference between getting a job or not, is just taking an hour or two out of your day to get an online certificate, or to get to get a little bit of that toolkit to learn software just enough to put it on your resume and say, I feel comfortable using this. Maybe I'm not an expert. Maybe I'm not an expert at InDesign, but I can use it. I know the basic functions. I watched a couple training videos. I have it on my laptop. I've done a couple simple projects on it. I can get started and I can figure that out. Or maybe you haven't managed a $50,000 a month Facebook advertising budget, but maybe you went in there, you went in the advertising manager, maybe you played around a little bit, maybe you ran a campaign. you know, um, a great way to practice that actually is like publish something, self-publish a book on Amazon and then try run an advertisement. How fun would that be? Like let's say you're writing a romance novel and it's in the style of I don't know I don't know any contemporary romance authors. Danielle Steele? I don't know if that's a real, that sounds like a romance author in my mind. But let's say it's, you wrote a book that would appeal to people who bought Danielle Steele's latest book or something like that. You could design a social media campaign that targets Facebook users who have expressed an interest in the novels of Danielle Steele and 10 other similar authors. And suddenly you have a baked in audience. You could set a $20 budget and see how it works, right? Um, you can play around with these things. I think you can experiment with Facebook Advertising Manager. You can also get the formal training too. The Facebook has the official training certificates. Last time I looked, it was called the Blueprint program, Facebook Blueprint, but they change it all the time, so I don't know. The official Facebook training. So that's really it. That's the tip. That's the trick to break into this space, to line up a job as a anything, digital marketing specialist, social media coordinator, um, even an internship, doing something part time or as an intern with social media or digital marketing. Um, those are places you can look. But then broaden your horizons too. Like I mentioned before, there's only so much that the title of a job says about a position. You know, um, if you're a marketing specialist, you still might be doing a lot of work with a website or a lot of work with social media. It really depends on the company, it depends on the position, it depends on the industry. So you're going to see a lot of variation out there depending on what you're interested in and what you're looking for. Um, and then again, there's also all that potentiality, all that power behind social and digital media. I've had students who have gone on and started their own businesses, and then they've used social media advertising to find their first few customers, and it kind of rolled onward from there. So that's not my area of expertise, though. I'm not saying spend your money trying to start a business. I'm not qualified to advise you in that capacity. Other than don't be afraid to experiment. If that's the democratizing element of social media advertising. For all my critiques and all my warnings about disinformation and propaganda and ethical concerns about social media, is that it does democratize in some way the advertising process. Say you were a musician, you put out an album, and let's say it's in the style of new folk, it's like Iron and Wine or something, Fleet Foxes. You can find Facebook users who listen to the Fleet Foxes and then send them an advertisement and say, "Hey, you might actually really like this album that I put out. It's kind of sounds like Bon Iver meets Fleet Foxes plus a little bit of Iron and Wine." And someone will say, "Oh, I really like that. Maybe I'll buy that album." And then before you know it, you've built up your audience and your musical career or something like that. So it can be very democratizing. It can be very liberating. It can be very useful. Oh, I've gone a little off track here, haven't I? But chapter five. I wanted to create a complement to chapter five, just to talk to you a little bit about digital writing careers. And so there are a few actionable things you can do. If you really want to go into the space, and there's good money to be made too. I mean, you can make a very good income. It's an expanding field. Um, Lots of opportunities. If you look at that link I posted in Canvas, um, it's like 17,000 social media jobs active right now in the US. That's a ton of jobs all over. And that's just with one keyword. That's just one keyword. That's not even, the digital marketing keyword. That's not even, communications keyword. So there's so many opportunities out there, at least right now at the time of recording this video. There's a lot of opportunities out there in this space, and they pay well, right? They can pay very well depending again on the industry, the geographic location, but for the most part, very good salaries. It's creative work, it's interesting work, and you can bring to bear all of your writing skills and creativity and digital and rhetorical skills in these positions. But the way to break in is you need to have some of that software training under your belt. That wasn't really the function of this class, right? I'm not going to walk you through every piece of software. The software is always changing. It's Facebook one day, it's Twitter the next, it's TikTok tomorrow. We don't know exactly. So that's not the point of the class, to walk you through every piece of social media software, but to give you the critical skills to do that on your own as you need to, right? And so that's kind of the next steps, thinking about like after this class and where do you go with this, software training. So either some kind of like do some free official online certificate training in Facebook or Twitter advertising, some of the bigger platforms. Learn your Adobe products just as much as you can, right? You don't have to be an expert going in, but just have some basic fundamental skills in those platforms. Internships can be really powerful, so seek out social media or digital marketing internships and build up some of those skills. And make sure you have a really compelling resume with skills on it, with hard skills. Facebook advertising manager or certificate, the Facebook certification in such and such subcategory, whatever it is. You need the hard stuff, hard skills in your resume if you want to kind of break into the digital writing job opportunities, internship experience, software skills. Those are your next steps if you want to work in this area, if you want to potentially find a career in digital marketing or social media or some of these adjacent positions. Is build up those skills, make sure they're clearly listed on your resume. Be a good researcher, always be looking at open positions and getting a sense of what companies are looking for, and then integrate that back into your strategic approach to trying to find a job. Train yourself, learn the software, and then tell them, right? You in your cover letter and your resume, you're making an argument. You're trying to say, I am ready for this job. I'm prepared to do this work. You're trying to provide evidence. In your cover letter, you might say, I have a bachelor's degree in writing from the University of Wisconsin Superior. I'm certified, I'm a Facebook certified data scientist from their Blueprint training program. I've been using Adobe Photoshop and InDesign for 2 years, and I have video editing experience. I don't know, so on and so on. Like lay it out, provide the evidence, factual, objective evidence of your capabilities and your skills and your experience, and such that it matches the position, and then be patient, right? Because you might send out 100 applications and only get a couple phone calls. It can be like that. It's very competitive out there, but there's a lot of opportunities too. So that can be kind of confusing, right? It's like, how can there be 17,000 open positions and I'm not getting a call back? It's just, it can be slow. It's the way that job applications go. Um, Sometimes they get flooded with applicants, especially with the new, this kind of the work from home, remote work phenomenon. Um, your competition pool is different. You're competing with job candidates from all over the country, potentially people who are willing to relocate, or if it's work from home, you might have a national or even an international candidate pool, which means your application needs to stand out. It has to be a really good match. Larger companies use applicant tracking software to try to create matches between applicants and their materials. So that's something to be aware of too. There's procedural rhetoric. There's algorithms determining which candidates are the best match for a position. That's, literally a procedure, an algorithm sorting through. Let's say you get 100 applications for a job posting at this company. The applicant tracking software is going to crawl through all that data and maybe choose 5 or 10 best candidates and send their profiles to the hiring manager for that position. The hiring manager probably isn't going to look through all 100 applications. That software is going to comb through, look for keyword matches, try to determine the 5 or 10 best matches, and send those resumes and those profiles to the hiring manager. At large companies, anyway. Medium-sized companies use what they're called ATSs, applicant tracking software. You've seen them before, like Talio, and there's a number of them. Um, so how do you beat that? You have to match your application materials to the job posting. You've got to use keywords from that job posting, not excessively. It has to look natural, but nonetheless, you're fighting a lot of things here. You're fighting the algorithm of the keyword matching algorithm from the applicant tracking software. You're fighting against really large applicant pools, and perhaps you're fighting against your own kind of potential lack of experience in the field, and you're trying to think of ways to gather and gain skills and experience that are relevant for those positions. But you can defeat all those things strategically if you approach them the right way. So I try to keep these under 20 minutes, so I'll stop here. But good luck out there, and talk to me. I'm here. If you're really really interested in social media and digital media careers, like I'm happy to help you think about that, and we look for internships, and there's a lot out there. So just stay positive and think about it. There's real possibilities out there, ways to make a good living as a writer doing work in social media posts. Maybe it's not what you thought being a writer would be like, but it can sustain your life. Maybe you're actually a social media writer in the making. Okay, good luck out there. Take care of yourselves, and let me know if I can help you.